papers, at least in the past it was, the Los Angeles Times, and shared in a Pulitzer Prize when he was at that paper. He was not a believer until something happened to make him a believer, and I must say his books of the Verdants are really inspiring. They're wonderful books, and would you please welcome Philip Krapf.
Thank you. This is the first time I've appeared before such an eclectic group. Usually the groups I address have a very strong UFO focus. This is more of a wide-ranging focus here, so I wasn't quite sure how my message was going to be received, if it was going to be received at all. Obviously, it's being received by some. Anyway, I'm going to tell you in a few minutes about some very strange creatures that I've encountered. But if you bear with me, I want to talk a few minutes about a visit to a jog I took yesterday at the local park right up behind the hotel. I hadn't been out for, it's North Glen Park. I hadn't been out for a couple of days. Thursday and Friday I missed my morning jog. So yesterday I thought, I got to get out there and sweat up a little bit. So I went out there. And it's a real nice park. I don't know if anybody's been there, but it's a very nice park. This is in keeping with some of the strange creatures that I've met, by the way. Anyway, I was going around the park and I saw a couple of ladies working in a flower bed. And I said good morning to them, and they didn't respond. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange. That, usually in Los Angeles, anyway, in Southern California, you say good morning to someone, you get some kind of a response. It may not be good morning, but it'll be a response. Anyway, I went around again, and I thought, well, they could be hard of hearing, so I said it a little bit louder. Good morning, ladies. And again, nothing. So I thought, well, maybe Denver people, Colorado people are different than California people. They maybe not maybe it's a different culture. So the third time around, I said good morning again, but now I was just trying to bug them. So anyway, I did see a kid about 20 walking through the park, and he was wearing his shorts. Oh, I would say the waist was probably halfway down to his knees, and he was showing more butt cleavage than a plumber under your kitchen sink. So I figured, well, no, these are the same people as in California, so that's not the answer. But anyway, I thought I was really getting out of shape after after a couple of days, and I thought I shouldn't be this out of shape. I was really having a hard time, and so I went by the ladies again. And I heard one of them say, what? And the other one said, what'd she say? She says, I'll tell you later. And so I thought, well, these are kind of strange people. But anyway, it finally occurred to me that I was having a hard time, and I realized that they weren't being unfriendly. They probably just were out of breath because the air is a lot thinner than I'm used to. So anyway. That has nothing to do with anything. I just thought it was an interesting experience out in the park. I come from a very traditional Orthodox background. I presume because this is not a UFO focus group that very few people in here have read my book or books. This was the first one, published in 1998. This was the second one, published June of last year. This one is a hardback. It's out of print, but it's going to paperback, so this is no longer available, but it's going to paperback, and it's being shipped now, and the price is coming down, and there's also some updates in it, and an extra chapter. So I do have the first one for sale, but I don't have the second one. This is just my personal copy that I'm keeping, on my bookshelf, so that someday when I croak, my progeny will have a copy of it. Anyway, where was I? I come from I had a point and I forgot it. I come from a very traditional background, and I never believed in UFOs, alien abductions. I'd read the stories, of course. Mostly you see it on television. Television does more of this than mainstream media. Mainstream media, they don't pay much attention to it because primarily because they don't believe. They covered it at first back in '48. When supposedly the Roswell crash took place. But it was the novelty wore off over the years, so they don't cover it very much anymore. So I never believed in it. Most newspaper people that I know didn't believe in it, and I never read anything in the genre. And I just didn't have any interest. I'm going to give a brief synopsis here of my books on the assumption that because this is not a UFO group, most of you are not familiar with my books. There might be a couple people who are. But so I'll give a synopsis of my experiences as outlined in the books. And then what I want to do is I want to just open it up to questions. And I want to spend actually most of the time taking questions because I want to talk about what you want to hear rather than what I think you want to hear. So I want you to tell me what you want to hear, and that way we can discuss it. 1.25 hours simply is not enough to do for me to tell the story, quite frankly. I usually often take 4 hours in front of UFO groups to really cover the whole story completely. So I'm going to make this kind of fast, and then we'll go to questions. So if you have any questions, you might want to jot them down and get prepared to go to the microphone. My life was going along pretty much normally, a middle-class suburban person. I took an early retirement in 1993. As I say, I'm very conventional, very traditional. I spent 30 years in the newspaper business as a reporter, editorial writer, feature writer. That was primarily on the first newspaper I went to work for, 32,000 circulation semi-weekly, where I learned the business. And then I moved to the Los Angeles Times in 1968 and stayed there until 1993 on the Metro copy desk in the downtown newsroom. In 1993, I shared in the Pulitzer Prize with the Metro staff that won the award for our coverage of the Los Angeles riots after the 5 white officers were acquitted in the Rodney King beating. That was, then I retired in '93, and that was the end of my newspaper career. So you can see I'm pretty conventional. And I busied myself in retirement. I stayed busy doing various things. And then in 1997, right out of the blue, in January 1997, I had my own alien abduction experience, and I call it an alien abduction experience. I refer to all of these incidents as alien abduction experiences rather than alien abductions, because if you tell me that you have been abducted by aliens, and I repeat that and say you were abducted by aliens, I'm stating a fact and I'm not quite sure about it. But I know if you tell me about it, you've had at least an alien abduction experience. You may not have had an actual abduction, and I have talked to people who are convinced they have been abducted. I'm not quite sure they have been. I've talked to people who have been abducted. I know they've been abducted. But still I refer to them as alien abduction experiences just to be on the safe side. So I don't confirm anybody's story that they have actually been abducted. But I woke up in the middle of the night on one June night in 1997, and there was a beam of, there was a bluish white light in the room. And I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe in much, quite frankly. I'm an old cynical newspaper man. I'm an atheist. I was an atheist, anyway, let me put it that way, at that time. I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe there are monsters under the bed, so I don't bother checking. But there was a light in the room, and I was curious about the light. Why? I thought I left the television on when I fell asleep, but the television screen was dark. So I looked to the drapes. There's a street light out in front of the house, and the light wasn't coming in through the drapes. So So I thought, well, I'll check it out. I get up out of bed and went over to the light switch to turn on the light to see what's going on. And I got just a couple of steps, and the beam of light, or the light itself, it was a, it's kind of hard to describe, a bluish-white iridescent light, kind of very muted. But it focused into a narrow beam and focused upon me. And the next thing I know, I couldn't feel my feet against the carpeted floor. And I had the momentary feeling of rising, and that's all I remember after that. I mean, I don't remember seeing the ground dropping away. I don't remember looking up and seeing anything up above. All I remember is that within a split second or two, I was standing in front of some very, very strange creatures. And the strangest creatures I'd ever seen. And intellectually, I knew what had happened. I knew that I had experienced something that I didn't believe in. And I was, at the same time, my mind was very clear. I was quite lucid and rational. And I was wondering why I was not reacting as a person in that situation should react, and that is to be swooning, to be flopping around on the floor hysterically, refusing to accept this, and I was accepting it with much equanimity. Now, someone who was a believer, who had been a believer, who may have been in this field for 30 years or so, and there have been people like that, they probably, you would expect that their reaction would be different than reaction of a non-believer. They might even, say, "Thank you, it's my turn, and I really appreciate it. I'm glad to be here," Whereas I should have been reacting differently, and I wasn't. And quite frankly, I thought I was there for an examination because although I didn't read in the genre, and I really never was interested in the subject. If I gave any thought about it at all, I thought that the people, I don't know, I hate to use harsh terms about them, but I didn't think really highly of them, oddballs, that sort of thing. I'm having a senior moment. Somebody prompt me, tell me where I was going with that. I'm sorry? Oh yeah, I thought it was, thank you very much, thank you very much. I do that often, by the way. What happens is, there's so much to tell, and I'm trying to cram it into such little time, and I start talking about something. I'm on this path, and I know I'm heading this way, and then all of a sudden something over here catches my eye, and I go off on this direction over here, and finally on this tree trunk, and finally I find myself out on a limb, and I forget how to get back. And I don't know where I was, so you have to bring me back. And this is quite normal, by the way, for any of my presentations. I always do it. One of these days, I'm going to learn how to give a talk. But anyway, where was I? Okay, I thought I was there for an examination, and quite frankly, the only emotion running through my all these stories that I read in the past, and there weren't many. But the stories I read in the past, there was that one single thread that seemed to tie a lot of these stories together, and that is that the people reported being taken up for an examination of some sort, a physical examination. And I thought the strongest emotion I felt at the time, quite frankly, it wasn't fear, it wasn't apprehension, it was curiosity. I really, really wanted to take a tour of that ship. And I was, I hate to admit it, but I was ready to even submit myself to a probe if they'd let me take a tour of the ship. Although I was hoping that wouldn't happen. And as it turned out, it didn't happen. I was there for a different reason. And that is, we went to another part of the ship, and I spent 3 days aboard that ship, and a good part of that time was spent in formal sessions with a group of aliens in almost like a boardroom at a table, and they basically told me who they are, where they come from, what they're doing here, how long they've been here, what humankind can expect in the first decade of the new millennium. Now, this was back in 1997, so new millennium had not come yet. And they I spent hours of meetings, usually about 4 hours, sometimes up to 6. And then I had rest breaks. I had a couple of sleep breaks during those 3 days. I had meal breaks. And then I had some leisure time, and I had a personal tour guide and attendant who took me on a tour of the ship. And I guess I should get right to the main issue here, and that is, okay, what was I doing there? Okay, they said they had been recruiting for the last few years, a number of very prominent people from practically every field of human endeavor as ambassadors. They gave them the title of ambassador to serve as liaisons for the upcoming attempt to establish diplomatic relations between our two species so that we could formally meet. Okay, that sounds like pretty good protocol. Why now, though? That's the big important question. Why now? Well, the way they explained it is they are explorers. They explore the universe. When they come across a planet that is inhabited and inhabited by intelligent creatures, they'll go in and take a look and find out how advanced that civilization is, or that species is, how advanced that species is, whether or not it actually has a civilization, whether or not it has spoken and written languages and cities and things like that. If the species is really way back in primitive stages, back in the Stone Ages, 10,000 years away from a point of evolving to the point where they can put artificial satellites into space and maybe get on the threshold of going into space themselves, then they kind of map and catalog the planet, and they'll move on with their exploration, and they'll come back in a few thousand years to see how they're progressing. When they come across a planet in which there is an intelligent species, and that intelligent species has a written language and spoken language and cities, civilizations, codified laws, and they're within 1,000 years of advancing to the point where they're capable of going into space, then they put a permanent monitoring station around that planet, and they study the inhabitants, they study the anatomy, the physiology, they study the cultures, the religion, the languages. They learn more about that species than the species probably knows about itself. And that's the situation with Earth. They saw that we were very close to evolving to that point where we're ready to go into space. Okay, the time has come. We are now on the verge of going into space, humans. Some people would contend that we are already in space. I think that's a little bit naive, because we are barely out on the welcome mat, out on the doorstep. We haven't made it to the garden gate yet, so we're really not into space. We're just mucking around a little bit out around the moon, that sort of thing, trying to get some probes to Mars. They said that no species can go into space unless diplomatic relations are first established to ensure, I don't mean to spit, to ensure that a hostile, aggressive, warlike species does not go out into the cosmos and pose a threat to its planetary neighbors, because space is a place of peace. There are no weapons allowed. There are no warships in space. And so that is their purpose in trying to establish diplomatic relations. And that's all sounded, okay, good to me, very, very, very good to me. I said, okay, why am I here? And they said they're also taking a number of minor personages, anonymous people, people who can do specialized tasks for supporting roles when the effort to establish these diplomatic relations begins. And there was a timetable in effect. This is back in 1997. And this timetable indicated that by the year, way off in the future, by the year 2002, in the early part of the year, these ambassadors would begin identifying themselves, saying, yes, this is true. We have been aboard the ship. the species, the aliens are there, and they are trying to establish diplomatic ties with our species so that we can have a summit conference. So basically, that's a very quick synopsis. I wish I had the 4 hours. I don't. So I wrote the white paper. That is it right here. And basically, it is to, they asked me to write a white paper. I forgot to tell you that. They asked me to write a white paper to explain in very, very general detail about what the people of Earth can expect in the first decade of the new millennium when this process gets going, so that because when the information starts flowing out from these hundreds and hundreds of ambassadors, there'll be so much information coming out from all over the world that it'll amount to virtually information overload. A quick look at this white paper will give the reader a general idea of what's going on, and compared it to a giant jigsaw puzzle, a billion-piece jigsaw puzzle, in which each little piece in the jigsaw puzzle represents a little bit of information, a little piece of information that's going to be coming out. And it may have some very interesting shape and form and color, but by itself, it's meaningless unless you fit it into the big picture and you see where it fits. And so I saw myself as drawing a very crude picture on the box of this jigsaw puzzle to give an idea what the general picture would look like in a very crude fashion once it is complete. So I agreed to that, and I wrote the white paper. I included in it, besides the information I picked up in these formal sessions, I included in it some material that I wasn't asked to include, but I wasn't told I couldn't include, that happened during my informal periods when I was with my personal tour guide and attendant. And there are a couple of incidents there that I was a little bit embarrassed about writing about, because one had very, very serious spiritual overtones, which I'm not comfortable with, and I'm also not qualified to write about, and I also really don't understand because I have no religious training or background. And so I didn't want to include it, but I did include it simply because it happened, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to put it in anyway. And so it is a little embarrassing. Another one was a sexual incident that also was a bit embarrassing. I was going to leave that out, but then I decided if I'm going to tell this truth, the story, I'm going to include everything. So I did in that book. That's called The Contact Has Begun. That is still in print. It is a paperback. That was put out by Hay House. In January of 2000, I had another experience in which I was invited back to the ship for 2 days. And I spent 2 days on the ship, and that became the challenge of contact, in which it basically describes the struggle that goes on behind the scenes in trying to bring about a project of this monumental size, of all the problems that can arise, and of all the conflicts. And so this was put out in June of last year, but again, it has sold out, and the publisher is now in the process. It's already gone past the printer. I finished my rewriting on it about a month or so ago. It's gone to the printer. I'm sure it's coming off the printing presses at this very moment, going into boxes, being shipped to the warehouses, which will then ship them to the bookstores. This can also be and it's in paperback form, and the price has dropped down from $19.95, I think it's down to $12.95. And that was one of the purposes of, and also I updated it, gave all the new information in there, and added another chapter. That is it in a nutshell. And I know if you're interested in this sort of subject, and you may not be, you may be here because you paid for it, you figure you might as well come and sit anyway. But if you have any interest in it, I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Could we line up at the microphone?
Is the microphone on? All right. How did you communicate with these beings? And what type of beings were they?
Okay, they were similar to what is known as the Greys. The Greys I never heard about before, but I had seen their caricatures. Everybody has seen the caricatures of the Greys. I didn't know they had a name, since I had no interest in the subject. The Greys are that ubiquitous caricature you see all over the place, printed, as well as in novelty stores, holding candy and things like that. They're short, 5'2" to 5'4", no discernible body hair, very thin features, very slightly built, an almost indistinct nose, a couple of nostrils. Oh, the eyes were the only basic difference that I saw between these verdants and the Greys, and were the eyes. The eyes were proportional to their face as the eyes of the human are proportional to the human face. They were not the great big bug eyes that you see on the caricature. Next.
How did you communicate with them?
Oh,
What type of communication?
Okay.
They speak English?
I spoke to them in English, as I'm speaking to you right now. They spoke to me. I heard them through my auditory system. I thought they were speaking to me orally. I didn't see any lips move. I didn't see any tongue. I'm sure they had a tongue, but I didn't see one. It was like the sound came directly from the throat, much as the sound of a parrot comes directly from the throat when a parrot is mimicking human sounds. Parrots don't really speak. Parrots simply mimic human sounds. That don't mean a thing to them. And so having no experience with telepathy, being a non-believer in many things, including religion, I was not someone who particularly believed in telepathy. I'd heard about it certainly, thought it had not been proven. Having had no experience with it, I could not tell you if they communicated with me telepathically or not, because if you don't know how telepathy works, and I send you a telepathic message, how are you going to receive that message? Are you going to receive it as you're receiving my words right now? Only you're hearing them and no one else is hearing them. Are you going to receive them as you receive the words in your head as you're reading a book? And you do pronounce the words in your head as you're reading a book. Or are you going to receive the message as just as thought processes without sentence or paragraph structure? I would say my sensory impressions tell me they spoke to me orally. I received their message through my auditory system. But if you wanted to make an argument for telepathy, I'm sure you're on very solid ground, and I'm sure some people who are interested in telepathy could probably make that argument.
One last question, I'll relinquish the mic. You said you had a sexual experience. Does this mean there are male and female of this species?
They are male. They are humanoid.
And which was your guide?
My guide was a female, and she was an experimenter, and the aliens were humanoid, but they were definitely not human. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that there are other ambassadors going to be more vocal about this at the beginning of 2002. Can you tell us more about these ambassadors, who they are? Have they been vocal?
Okay, I can't tell you about them because they are supposed to identify themselves. On this book here, The Challenge of Contact, that occurred in January of 2000, on my first visit aboard, I met one other human being. And I was on a tour with my personal tour guide, and another person was on a tour, and he was coming towards me, and I recognized him right away. Now, I read newspapers, and there are photographs in newspapers, so I would recognize him. I'm not saying that he would be recognized by everybody in the country, but I certainly recognized him. Very important man. We exchanged pleasantries, and that was the only person I met on board the first time. The second time, I came in contact with 12 other humans. And these humans were there as representatives of the ambassadors, and they were thrashing out in executive session with the aliens. They were thrashing out a lot of the problems that are arising and that arise during a project of this magnitude. And they were very concerned, the aliens were very concerned about some of the things that they had been seeing going on. When the Cold War ended around the late 80s, early 90s, they really felt for the first time in human history that there was an actual chance for humans to achieve world peace. And it didn't quite work out that way, and so there were these concerns as to whether or not we were ready. Now, I had asked them the first time aboard, well, if you only take very, people who will fit in, who are not going to be aggressive, I don't understand how the human race can qualify under those conditions, because they have seen our history. They have seen the barbarism. They have seen the savagery and the wars and the Holocaust and the ethnic cleansing and the group killings and the individual killings and the crimes. And they agreed. They said at first that we saw you as a very savage race, and we didn't think you were going to cut the mustard or pass muster, and that you weren't going to make it. But they said then they saw something that really surprised them. They saw the beautiful architecture and the beautiful music and the art and the did I say music? Music, architecture, art. All of these beautiful creative things that indicated a nobility of spirit that they couldn't understand was there. And they said that the human species is the most diverse species it has ever come across in all of its explorations. All other species are much more homogeneous than we are. Never before have they seen pure evil, and think of your favorite tyrant in the news today, versus pure goodness, living in the same species, speaking the same languages, with the same basic makeup, and being so different. They'd never seen that kind of diversity before. So I guess that's a long way of answering your question. The ambassadors are on their own to identify themselves when they want to come out. So
have any ambassadors revealed themselves yet? To your knowledge, have any?
To my knowledge, no ambassador has revealed himself yet. To my knowledge, and there's a reason for it. And the reason is 9/11, in which I had another half-hour visit, and they said that they're going to step back, and they use the word hiatus. They're going to step back and take a look and see if we're going to get through this thing, because the cosmos is a very big place, and if one little planet somewhere kind of turns into a cinder, you might see a little bit of a flash if you're close enough, and a little puff of smoke, and it really doesn't mean anything in the big picture. Sort of like a bug hitting a bug zapper, and that's just life in the cosmos. So if we don't make it, we don't make it, and if we do, they're going to be there. They're very generous. They're going to be there to help us along if we make it on our own. But our destiny is in our own hands. They are not here as our saviors. They are here, quite frankly, if one looks at the book very closely, you can see that they're very benevolent, they're very generous, they're kind and understanding and empathetic and sympathetic. But when it comes right down to it, the underlying message is that they are mortal beings, and mortal beings, by and large, have survival instincts, and you can't fault any animal for exercising its survival instinct. And the bottom line is, they're here out of self-interest. They want to make sure that this murderous species, or any murderous species, does not go into space and pose a threat to themselves or to the peace of the cosmos. Yes, sir.
In the contact has begun, you referred to an event to which the ETs were going to, as a demonstration of their power, peacefully, create a city almost overnight in the American Southwest, if I remember correctly. I'm curious to know what the status of that is, and if it's been deferred, is it still on the agenda?
The whole timetable has been put on, as they say, hiatus, and that after the challenge, after I wrote the Challenge of Contact, I kind of left it nebulous in a way. kind of up in the air as to what the decision would be. They were very concerned about things that are going on. So what they did was they consulted with these representatives of ambassadors, and they thrashed all these problems out, and then the verdants themselves would go back into executive session, and they would come up with a decision as to whether or not the contact was going to proceed. And then the humans came home, and we simply waited. At the International UFO Convention in Laughlin, Nevada, in well, that was it was this March. It was 1990. It was 2002. This March. I got to keep these dates straight. I got word that the contact would proceed. They took almost a year to make this decision, but I wasn't allowed to announce it for a while. They wanted to keep it under wraps. I don't know why. In August, they gave me permission to go ahead and say, yes, the contact will proceed. In a few months, the ambassadors will begin coming out and will be revealing themselves and will be contacting government leaders, leaders of all the fields, you know, in the world. And so I put out a news release. And this news release I sent to my website. This was in August 23rd, that the contact would proceed. This was wonderful news because, first of all, it was going to give me support because I was the only one who so far had gone public, and my reputation was on the line, and I'm retired, and I've been in the newspaper business for 30 years, and I don't have anything. I didn't have anything but my credibility, and when they started indicating that there was some hesitation, I became very, very concerned about my credibility because this could ruin me. And then they said, it's going to proceed, and okay, great, I'm going to get support. Not only that, but I'm going to get vindication against some of these guys who have been really criticizing me and really coming down really hard on me. And I'm going to be able to say, I told you so. 19 days later, after the news release came out, and it is on record, if you'll check the website, thechallengeofcontact.com, 19 days later was September 11th, and then that evening, I saw the white light again. I was in my den, and I saw the bluish-white light, and I knew this was not going to be good news. I was taken aboard again. It was about a half an hour, and I was told that we are not ready, and they're going to. I think basically what they're saying is that we don't think it's safe for us down there, we're looking out for ourselves. But basically, they said we don't think you're ready. Sort of like, it'd be sort of like you saying, when you see a couple of pit bulls going at it, you say, well, let's see, I can step in between them, but no, I don't think you're ready, you know. So I don't think they wanted to step into this fight that they saw. And there was a real potential, I think they felt, there was a real potential that we are going to incinerate ourselves. Anyway, it is on hiatus. I am optimistic. I do have hope. I do believe that it will go ahead. And I do firmly believe, and I state this as a prediction, that we will not be going into space until we establish diplomatic relations. It's not going to happen. We're just not going. We have to get our act together. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, Mr. Krapf. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My name is Phil.
Phil. Phil, I'm Tanya. And actually, I have more questions than I would know what to do with, so I'm going to kind of narrow it down to...
I probably have no answers then.
Well, I've read both of your books,
Okay.
and I've kept tabs on your website and
Okay.
checked for updates, and was very saddened by the change of mind, change of heart by the Verdants after September 11th, and understand their frustration based on how you expressed it, that there are many of us that seem like our intentions are good and honorable, but there is a very gross imbalance with many that are in control whose intentions for the greater populace of this world are not looking out for everyone else's best interests. And so that makes perfect sense. But I guess my biggest question to you would be, now that your life has changed so dramatically, now that you have put your name and your reputation out on a limb, as others as well, and have suffered some of the negative repercussions, as well as a great deal of gratitude from those that have not had so strong a voice. How are you moving forward on a day-to-day basis, and do you stay in some state of contact with either Gina or any of the others that you did have dialogue with? Do they plan on continuing to give you updates? Is it something that we should continue to look for? Since I got your original Challenge of Contact book, it didn't have the extra chapter, and so I'm kind of hoping there might be some more information that maybe has been left out from what I've read.
Okay, stay there because you're going to have to repeat some of those questions because
Sorry.
you just overloaded me with information. I'm suffering from information overload. I was very proud to end my career as sharing in a Pulitzer Prize. That is right at the top of your field.
Absolutely.
To see that destroyed could destroy me. But I have tried to maintain a very positive outlook and try to remain optimistic. I try not to get into the gloom and doom things, although there are periods when I do get down, when I do feel I've been betrayed, I've been used. I'm the only one who's gone public. I'd like to see others go public. But that's their choice. But I can understand why they wouldn't. If you're the chancellor of a Midwestern university and you were expecting and you were recruited for this very important project, this historic project, and you knew that you were going to get support, as soon as you made your announcement, you were going to get your support, then it doesn't take a real lot of courage to then announce that. But when they say, okay, it's not going to be happening for a while, it's on hiatus, you're going to be very, very reluctant to say, yes, here I am, I'm the chancellor of your university, and I've been up to the ship, and the aliens are there and everything else. Hey, there's still a stigma attached to this, and there's also that woo-hoo, element. And so I can understand why they're not going to take a chance on that, because that's a big job, a chancellor of a university. That's a well-paying job, and you don't want to jeopardize that. You don't want to jeopardize your career track and your promotions and your raises and stuff like that. So I can understand why, but I would like to see somebody sometime step up and say, you know what, Phil is right. I've been there, but I'm not really expecting it until they are certain that the plan has been reinstituted, it's going back into effect, and that they're going to get support. When you got the support behind you, it's very easy to do. Then you can lead. But when you're standing out there by yourself, it's a lonely place. I have been ridiculed by my local paper. I mean, I live in a town with 100 and some thousand people. The newspaper comes out one time with a great big banner headline on a double truck. A double truck, by the way, is an inside page that opens up into 2 pages instead of just 1 page. And so the banner runs all the way across the 2 pages. Flash, copy editor abducted by aliens. Well, quite frankly, when I was in the newspaper business, I'd have probably done the same thing myself, so I didn't judge the guy too harshly, but it did hold me up to ridicule. I have lost friends. I have gained some friends who are active in this field. A very good friend I met in 1961 in college. Knew him for, well, a long time. He simply just dropped out of my life. There have been several others. One guy is still at the Times. One guy just retired from the Times in last November. These guys stay in contact with me all the time. And there's a former reporter from the Times who contacts me 2 or 3 times a week. Although our relationship is kind of, it's an unusual relationship in that he's the first one who hired me right out of college at the small newspaper. He was the editor then. Then I became the editor, and he moved on to the Times, and then I moved on to the Times. And when my book came out, he says, I don't want to hear about your book. I don't want to talk about your book. I don't want to know about your book. I said, okay. And that works fine with me. I've never mentioned the book to him again, although his wife contacted me secretly from work and asked me for a copy. So anyway, I don't know if I answered any of your questions, but what else did you have?
Well, I commended you for being so vocal, because it's going to take nothing less than that. And whether you are vocal publicly as you have been, Or in my case, you just share, I've had an experience with your family. It doesn't matter whether you're atheist or you come from a fundamental Christian religion. People that it does not fit into their sense of the world or their premise of the world are not accepting.
Have you had an experience yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
And-
Yeah, people like you, see, you're young, I don't know if you're working, you're probably working, you have a career track if you are working, or even if you're just I shouldn't say just married, but if you're married and have children and everything, you've got to think of them too, about what your friends are going to think, what your social group is going to
You
think.
have to listen to the children when they're telling
That's
you.
right, and there's a stigma attached. I mean, they think you're wacko. You can't be sane if you believe in this sort of thing. Well, I got news for them. I have been contacted by some very important people. They haven't necessarily said they are ambassadors, but I have seen things in the paper of information released by some very important people that I think, I wonder, But there's a physician who's head of oncology at a major Eastern hospital, certainly no dummy. There's a Stanford professor. There are engineers, physicists. There's actually a physician that almost treated me. I belong to Kaiser Health System. I don't know if you're familiar with Kaiser Health System, but it's an HMO in California. I don't know where else it is. But he contacted me. He's an emergency room physician, and he's quite open about it. I said, how can you be so open? I said, I can be open because I'm retired. I don't have to worry about going to work and taking the ridicule and the derision and having my promotions or raises stop. Not that I was getting any raises or promotions to begin with, but how can you do that among your peers who are scientists? He says, as long as I keep saving lives in the emergency room, that's all they care about. They don't care if he goes out and takes trips on flying saucers or whatever. It doesn't concern them. Save lives. That's your job. That's what we're paying you for.
I just wanted to ask, in the absence of having your most recent book and the updated chapter, and before I hog the microphone, because I know people are very eager to speak to you, can you let us know what the updates were? If there's anything missing that we would not have seen on your website?
It's mostly the stuff that's on the website that's been incorporated into the book.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the last communique that you had was probably somewhere around September of this last year.
September, and then there was in late May. I did not have actual contact, but word was gotten to me through an intermediary. Well, I won't say an intermediary. That's the subject of another book, I think. I did get information, and that's on the website also. And this will be in the book, that this was when, you see, in 1997, in this book in 1997, you know what they're talking about in here? About the dangers to the contact? They were talking about thieves at the highest corporate level. They were talking about pedophile priests. They were talking about children killing children. Not necessarily on schoolyards. Schoolyards wasn't mentioned as far as I know, but children killing children. They were talking about, you know what, let me put on my glasses here for a minute. In 1999, I had information, didn't have a book to put it in. I wrote a manuscript as an update and put it on the internet on a place called fatbrain.com, and made it available for the minimum price that FatBrain will allow you to charge, which is $2. And I was told that the people who were most concerned, the technicians who were most concerned, this was at a time when there was a Y2K hysteria, that the people who were most concerned were given the technical information they needed to prevent any problem whatsoever with Y2K. And I put that on the website in 1999 on a place called fatbrain.com, and people have copies of that, and that's probably in the archives. And I wanted to get that out there to prove that I had got that information beforehand. I got that information in Easter Sunday, which is a kind of a strange day for an atheist to be getting information, of 1999, and I got it on the website. because I knew I wasn't going to get a book out in time in December of 1999. And I said, there's nothing to the Y2K problem if the people in charge will act upon the information they've been given. And Y2K came and went without any incident whatsoever. And there was other information that I put out also. But as far as what they were talking about, this is the news release I put out in May of this year, because they were talking about earlier in this book. I told you back in 1997, they were talking about impoverished countries that don't have the resources to clothe and feed and shelter their own population are spending their meager resources on the development of nuclear weapons. This is in 1997. That's in this book here. And then in May of this year, I put out this news release that went onto my website. Several days ago, I received word that the moment any faction on earth, be it a government or other geopolitical, social, or special interest group, uses a nuclear device as a weapon against any perceived enemy, the verdants will be leaving the environs of Earth. They're not going to put up with it. Anybody starts lobbing nuclear weapons, that's it. They're not going to put up with it. And you can just say, you know, I don't know if you can say goodbye to the world, but certainly there's going to be some very hard years before, if we do survive, there'll be some very hard years, and maybe we'll get to the point where we actually will merit being allowed to join the intergalactic community of beings. There is great concern among the extraterrestrials that long-running conflicts, most notably in the Middle East and on the Indian subcontinent, have escalated to the point in recent months where the likelihood of the use of nuclear weapons by one or more of the combatants has become a very distinct and disastrous possibility. If the nuclear virus is unleashed, it will be beyond the ability of anyone to contain and likely will spread across the face of the earth like a pestilence of unimagined horror and proportions, the statement from the Verdants says. At that point, we will consider the human race a lost cause and not worth monitoring any longer in the hopes of one day nurturing it so that it could take its place among the intergalactic community of enlightened beings. It will be time for us to move on and leave the species to play out its destiny, which is not very bright at the moment, the statement continued. The statement came to me directly from an official representative of the Verdants, not from a human intermediary, and has been sanctioned by the Intergalactic Federation of Sovereign Planets. I was given authorization to release it immediately, and I wanted to get to that one piece of information in which, well, maybe I don't have it, in which they're talking about some of the things on Earth that were really causing them problems, the things that they were concerned about. Okay, I won't bother you with these. We don't have much time. I'll take more questions.
Okay. Hi, Phil. My name's Marla Dawn. And I have 4 questions, but I'll make them short and you can answer yes and no.
Yeah, could you just ask the one, because there are other people behind you, and then if there's time, we can do the others. I mean, it's only fair to the others.
That's cool. That's cool.
Okay.
What I wanted to know, okay, I'll ask the biggie. What about Planet X? What are they talking? Have they talked to you about that? Is that a bad question?
You could have asked me any other question. As I go out and talk, I go out and talk and tell about my experience. I'm not an expert on anything. I'm just an old ex-newspaper man. I don't know anything. All I can do is talk about my experience, what happened to me according to what my sensory impressions tell me. As a matter of fact, I'm such a cynic that my mind is so open that I'm willing to consider any alternative reasonable explanation that will explain what happened to me and be glad of it you know, so that I know that, oh, it wasn't the way I knew it. It was something else. And I have gotten, and people have been kind enough to volunteer these things, you rotten. But they have given me, they have offered many alternative explanations. Some of them are reasonable and rational, and some of them make good points. They have not convinced me yet. I have to go by what my sensory impressions tell me, my ears, my eyes, you know, my taste, my touch, everything else.
But have they discussed anything about Planet X with
Okay,
you?
Planet X. I go out and I talk to people, and when I talk to people, there are people with many, many different messages. When my message comes in contact with any other person's message, I stay away from it. It's, I don't want to get into conflict. They have their point of view. I have information that I believe is relevant, and I consider it. I can't prove it, so I don't comment upon those things, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to alienate people who have a particular point of view, and they may very well be right, and I may very well be wrong. So I'm not going to get into it.
Okay, so they have not discussed Planet X with you?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Harold, and thank you, Phil, for all the information. Very interesting. This coming weekend, I'm going on a UFO trip with quite a few people. Maybe I should clarify that. We're not going to ride on the UFO. We're going to drive to an area that's close to Blanca Mountain at the south end.
Where UFOs have been sighted?
Yeah, where they've been sighted entering and exiting. Now, my question is, can you offer any suggestions how we can establish an intimate direct contact?
No, I cannot, because I have not established a reliable method myself of contacting them. There have been a couple of instances in which I have a contact where I'll mention to this contact, I'm interested in a certain subject. What do you know about it? What can you find out about it? And sometime later, I may or may not get some information. But my first contact was in January of 2000. I didn't hear from them again until June. I'm sorry. My first contact was in June of 1997. I didn't hear from them again for 2.5 years until January of 2000. You know, I could have died by that time. You know, I've never heard from them again. And then I didn't hear from them again until September of 2001. And those are the only 3 contacts I've had directly with them. And I have no reliable method of getting in contact with them. I have no idea when I wake up in the morning what that day will bring, whether or not I'm going to be in contact or if they're going to be in contact with me.
In other words, don't call us, we'll call you.
That's exactly what it is, and I wish I could help you. And you know, and I get some really, really sad letters and stuff, and I wish I could help. And sometimes I wish I didn't even know about this. I wasn't even in the position, because they tell me that they're suffering from these serious, serious illnesses, and they want, and as a last-ditch hope, because they're facing, you know, doom, they want me to intervene with the Verdants to cure them, because they're certain that the Verdants do have that information and can cure them. And I just have to tell them, I wish I had that power to heal all the ills of the earth, but I don't. I just don't have it, yeah. And I can't help.
You're welcome to go on this trip with us if you like. There's no cost to it.
Well.
And if anybody else is interested too, I've got all the information here. It doesn't cost anything.
Thanks.
Just your own expenses.
Okay. I got 10 minutes.
Has this group given any indication that they are representative of a group of aliens? Because from what I understand, there's a lot of conflicts between these aliens. Is this are they the exclusive representation for every alien race that's come to this earth?
I can only speak from my own experience, and there are other people who have had experiences with other aliens. There are people who told me that they have had contact with the people that I've had contact with, including the UFO lawyer, whose name is Peter Gersten, and that's his website, or his email address, I'm not sure, the UFO lawyer. Anyway, he said that he goes around suing the federal government to release certain information under the Freedom of Information Act, and he feels that his people, his clients, have been in contact with the same group that I've been in contact with. There are people who have had very negative experiences, who have talked about being tortured and needles placed into them, and hybrid children created and stuff like that. I don't know anything about it. I can't address it because it wasn't my experience, and I'm not going to even make any conjecture about it. They may be very well right, and I could be completely wrong. I don't know. All I can do is talk about my experience. All they told me was that there are 27,000 species in the Intergalactic Federation of Sovereign Planets. They did not mention any other species that are here in Earth's neighborhood. There may be. They may be fooling me. They may not. They may just have neglected to tell me, because they did not give me a copy of the Intergalactic Encyclopedia of all the information available in the cosmos. I was there for a very specific purpose and with a very, very narrow focus. And they didn't talk to me about engineering and science and reincarnation and invisibility and things like that, because that's not why I was there. They were there to tell me, okay, this is what we're doing in trying to establish diplomatic relations. That's all you need to know.
But they did tell you that they were representing other races in the
They said that they have a loose confederation called the Intergalactic Federation of Sovereign Planets. It's a very loose confederation, but these individual 27,000 species, a lot of them also have the drive, the mechanical drive or power drive, technical drive, that these creatures have, so they can get around the universe in a very, very fast mode. And the way I understand it, the race that discovers the new world is generally the race that kind of monitors them. Although there are visits from other species as well, but they're generally the ones that monitor them, rather than the Intergalactic Federation representing 27,000 other species.
Phil, do the Verdants have the same concept of a divine creator like we believe, or most of us believe, and do they believe in the veracity of our Holy Scriptures as it relates to the last days?
They have great respect for all religions. When I found out that they believed in God, and they believed in heaven, and they believed in the immortal soul, I actually had a physical reaction in which I thought I was going to pass out, because I was an atheist. I didn't believe in that thing. I didn't believe in the soul. I didn't believe in heaven. I didn't believe in God. I'm saying this speaking as I was then. I'm not talking about my condition now. I'm not even going to discuss that. They do have a religion. Their religion, they told me, is fact-based, evidence-based. As far as I know, and I don't mean to insult anybody here, because I know 95% of people in the world believe in, have religious beliefs. I happen to be the small percentage of people, one of the small percentage of people who don't. But as far as I know about religion, and I had no religious training or background, all human religions are based upon faith. I can't make that leap of faith. However, they say their religion is based upon evidence, facts. They know certain things. I could more easily embrace their religion because they have evidence and facts. If you believe them, and I do believe them, I believe they're telling me the truth, then I would be able to embrace a human religion. So yeah, they do believe, and they have great respect for religion, and they have great respect for everybody's religion.
My turn?
Did I answer your question? I'm sorry?
He wants to know if they believe in our scriptures, the Bible.
Oh, well, I can't answer that. I got 5 minutes. I can't answer that specifically. They never indicated to me that that's the basis of their religion.
Okay, I got a couple questions if you have 5 minutes. Nobody else is coming. What do these verdants have to offer us in light of our shadow government of the New World Order and the mark of the beast that they have planned for us?
And the what?
The shadow government of the Illuminati, Trilateral Commission, and the New World Order, mark of the beast. What do they have to offer us as a world?
They never.
And let me just add one more thing. Are these verdants negotiating with our shadow government, or who are they negotiating with for introducing themselves to us?
I can't answer your question. All I can say is that they say they have been taking people, something like 800 and some people from practically every area of human endeavor, education, law, military, whatever you can think of, and they are trying to use them as ambassadors to help lay the groundwork for the eventual contact.
Okay, do you have pictures of them, or did they allow you to take pictures of them or their ship or their world?
Nope. If you want proof,
Do you have drawings? Any drawings?
I commissioned a young lady at an art school near my house to do a drawing, but my publisher wasn't satisfied with it. There are a couple of drawings on the website that some viewers have submitted.
Okay, in 1952, George Adamski, he wrote a book called Inside the Spaceships, and those people are human. They look exactly like us, and they told Adamski that they would rather die as beings rather than kill or hurt or maim any of the people of our world. Do these people feel like that?
I have no idea. We didn't discuss it.
Yeah, could you describe anything of their world or their ship for us?
Yeah, the ship was big. It was, there weren't very many sharp corners, I noticed. I didn't see any flower vases. I didn't see any pictures hanging on the wall, except under one special circumstance. I didn't hear any music, except under one special circumstance. I note that in my book. They prefer earth tones, very neutral pastel shades. Yes, ma'am?
Did they ever make any comment about our Star Wars series? A psychological comment?
No, they didn't mention anything specifically. They are not happy with some of the things that are going on that can lead to death and destruction. I suspect that if I had a chance to go outside and look at their spaceship, they'd probably have a bumper sticker that would say, "Wouldn't it be nice if there weren't any rude people?" You know.
I just would like to ask you to comment on the fact that I have read the book, and a lot of these questions are answered in that book in more detail.
Thank you.
And I endorse this book 100%. It's a wonderful book, but I want to...
This is my paid agent, by the way. I got
No, I'm not. I didn't hear
My time is up. My time is up. Thank you very much.
Optimum intelligence, Philip. That's what I got.
Thank you. My time is up.